Hi, my name's Samira, and me, Joshua, Maya, Justin, and Noah are going to answer the questions. What was the Cold War? So there was cracks in the Allies during and after World War II. Hitler himself hoped that the Allies would self-implode because of the differences between Russia and the United States. It was very shocking to see the communist Russia working together with the democratic, anti-communist United States. So in 1947, the Cold War started, which were the political and economic attacks between Russia and the United States. It was called the Cold War because there was no actual military fighting between the two nations. So the photo on the bottom shows the leaders of the Allies, but the quote above it kind of shows how they only worked with Russia to defeat the common enemy, Germany. And the photo next to it is a symbol of how there was no actual physical fighting between Russia and the US. It was only political and economic attacks.
What happened during the Yalta Conference? The Yalta Conference was held at the Levadia Palace from the 4th to the 11th of February 1945. This was the second meeting of the Big Three since Tehran in 1943. During this conference, it was agreed that the Soviets will declare war on Japan and that they would form the UN, or the United Nations, with international courts to try major war criminals. They would also call for free elections in Europe. However, Stalin will abandon this plan. To the left, you'll see a picture of the first UN meeting in 1946, and to the right, you'll see a picture of a Soviet tank entering a Chinese village. This will not be the end of the meetings with the Big Three, as Maya will explain with the Potsdam Conference.
After the Yalta Conference, Roosevelt dies and is soon replaced by Harry Truman, who was even more of an anti-communist, meaning that there was a hard line on Soviets. Truman believed that they no longer needed Russia to win against Japan, unlike the Yalta Conference. In addition to resolving issues concerning Germany and Poland, the leaders of the United States, Great Britain, and Soviet Union met at the Potsdam Conference, which was the last warfare summit conference of the Allies near Berlin from July 17 to August 2nd, 1945. Great Britain and the United States also tried to persuade Stalin to allow democracy in Poland. Stalin eventually declined and suppressed non-communist parties and prevented elections in Soviet-occupied nations, as Josh mentioned in the previous slide. The picture on the top showed delegates seated around the conference table during a session of the Potsdam Conference, and the two images on the bottom show the Big Three, and the squiggle represents how Britain and the United States disagreed with Russia about Poland.
Hi, I'm Justin, and I will be talking about the post-war territorial divisions. Tensions arose between the U.S. and Soviet Union when both had different visions of what Europe should be following the downfall of the Axis powers. The U.S. and its allies, Britain and France, wanted Europe to be capitalist, and the Soviet Union wanted it to be communist. These different viewpoints led to the division of Europe. The U.S. and its allies controlled the West, and the Soviet Union controlled the East. The German capital of Berlin, which was in Soviet-controlled territory, was under the control of all four: the U.S., Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of Britain, described this division as an Iron Curtain. A similar division occurred in Asia when Korea was split in two and was controlled by both the U.S. and the Soviet Union. The image on the left shows the division of Korea, and the image on the right shows the division of Europe.
Hey, I'm Noah Baisa, and I will be talking about the Truman Doctrine. The Truman Doctrine was enunciated on March 12, 1947, and it would crystallize its new U.S. perception. The new U.S. perception was that the world was divided between free and enslaved peoples, and it was probably put into action because of the crises in Greece and Turkey. These crises, they threatened democracy and U.S. strategic interests, And, the doctrine would draw the lines of the Cold War. The doctrine would allow the U.S. to commit itself to an interventionist foreign policy, which was dedicated to the containment of communism, which it would stop the spread of communism and limited Soviet expansion. And the U.S. would send large sums of money to Greece and Turkey, and this dividing the world into two armed camps. These two armed camps were led by a superpower. And this superpower provided economic and military aid to nations within its region. For my pictures, I have a pencil drawing a line because this doctrine drew the line of the Cold War. I have a cartoon of the Truman Doctrine giving money to an armed camp, or part of those nations in the armed camp. And I have Henry S. Truman, the 33rd President of the United States.
Thank you for watching. We also have questions, and they are: what were the agreements made in the Yalta and Potsdam Conference? What were some disagreements? And how did the Truman Doctrine suppress Soviet expansion?